Okay, good morning. I'd like to call the personnel meeting to order. We just have a couple things to go over on the agenda. Number one, Danielle emailed you all out the compilation of the staffing requests that have come through the joint meetings on finance and the budget. Usually there's a half a dozen. Now we have 2 pages. So this morning she sent out a title by grade and a non-union hourly schedule. Just for informational purposes, this has been a work in progress for the last 10 days or so. We've gone through it multiple times, and we think we've got it pretty well totaled. This is what's been requested. It'll be up to the budget officer, and I guess the administrator and the treasurer at some point too. It'll be up to the budget officer to decide what he wants to include in the budget for next year. So if you have any specific questions about these, you can get a hold of Danielle, but mainly this is the stuff that came through all the committee meetings. The title by grade is just the current one, right, Danielle?
Yes.
2021?
Yep.
And the same thing with the non-union salary ones?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, we just wanted to get that out to everybody, make sure they had a copy of it and has a chance to look through it. Certainly, if you have questions, from a civil service standpoint, check with Danielle. Or from a financial standpoint, it's going to be up to Brian to give you an idea on, what the implications are and what he determines that he's going to put into the budget. Melissa, I would assume that we have a budget presentation at the end of the month from Brian, right?
I believe, yes.
Right, and so I'm hoping he'll be able to tell us when he presents that to us what parts of this, none of it, parts of it, all of it, he's got included in the budget and what the ramifications are, right?
Yes, I believe that's the plan.
Okay. Just hear from an informative situation at this point. Danielle, what else do we have?
We do have one other item. It's to increase the pool for the contact tracers. Currently, we have 8 on the staffing pattern, and we would like to actually do an unlimited amount as needed positions for that. Due to the rise in the cases, we need more people to help.
And it's just an expansion of the... Not sure who that was.
Might have been me.
Oh, okay.
I threw him up, I think.
All right. Okay, so we're looking for a motion to increase the pool of contact tracers, the personnel staffing pattern. Moved by Dave, seconded by Jay. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Okay. All opposed? Carried. Danielle, do you have anything else? We'll give just a real quick update on the search for the sewer district operator?
Sure. We did have interviews this week with 2 candidates for the executive director. The commissioners are actually going to their meeting on Tuesday to discuss the next steps. So right now, we don't really have anything definite.
Right. I just want to let them know
moving forward.
Progressing,
so.
and it's progressing to the point where I believe they had requested a shadow, and
Yes.
we're in a schedule so that if that's the case, we can probably make that happen.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have any questions at this point, Mr. Treasurer?
I do.
Okay. Well, I guess let's get Kathy go first.
So I'm just a little confused. I thought in the past there was a little conversation on the positions and the people who ask for raises, like executive session, because if Brian just adds in, maybe he only likes 5 of those people and he only puts in 5 raises, or maybe we as a board only want to give 4 of them. That discussion's not happening?
I always felt that discussion happened after he presented his budget, but do you want to have it before?
Well, if you're saying that Brian has to figure out who he puts in and who he doesn't put in, okay, whatever, you can do it however you want. I just seemed like if Brian's trying to jam in every single thing on that paper, and maybe, does anybody have anything against something that's on that paper or a question of what's on that paper?
If you have a question from the civil service standpoint, we can try to answer it. If you have a question regarding including it in the budget, I thought we would have between now and the time Brian presents the budget at the end of the month to contact him to say, I like this, I don't like this, so he can get feedback from us. Am I off kilter here, Brian?
So you just want us to,
Works for me either way.
Before the tentative budget is presented, everything's a suggestion. After the tentative budget is presented, everything is done by amendments by resolution. Either out of the committee, who makes the recommendation, they have 10 days to comment on the tentative budget, and then by the full board. So Brian sets the table. So if you have a particular way you want the table set, you go to Brian, he says, like, the table set this way, I'd like an extra fork, or whatever, use the analogy. Once the table's set, then the full group makes the changes. So it's all an opinion until the budget officer presents the tentative budget. Or input, but not binding input, because the tentative budget again sets the table.
Dave?
So there's a lot of positions here. And versus everyone trying to call Danielle and figure out what, wouldn't it make sense to just have a meeting, go through these and understand what they are before we put them in?
What don't you understand about these? These were all brought up in committee. What from a civil service standpoint, don't you understand?
Zoning maintenance?
No,
Maintenance
I do
wasn't
understand. I understand what's on there because civil service is civil service. If they're working outside their duties, then there's not much you can do. And the ones that were proposed that came through, I guess I felt that the director's positions should sometime be discussed somewhere. The other things I don't have a problem with. Yes, they came through committee, but it seems like we're putting a lot on Brian. But if you want to do a one-on-one, that's fine. We can call Brian. We should probably have an end date on that though. So Brian doesn't get a call in the 11th hour and somebody say, oh, hey, I think, Matt deserves 20,000 raise. Make sure you put that in there. You should say,
Thanks, Kathy, I appreciate that.
Ryan, when's your presentation presenting the budget to us?
But that's
What is the day that you're gonna present the budget to us?
October 27th.
October 27th is the
3
deadline.
weeks from today.
There you go, Cassie.
so I would say that no later than Monday, if you have an opinion, you should tell Brian because that's only fair to him. So he knows what he's working with. If somebody has an opinion one way or the other.
Dave has the floor, Cassie, for a second.
Are these all the raises going to be put in for department heads for everything?
These are requests. Understand it, these are requests. We are presenting you the request. We don't know it, Brian. It's Brian's budget. He's gonna put in what he wants to put in. There's no sense discussing something if he decides it's in or it's out. We just spent the last 10 days compiling this. This is a lot of requests. I don't know how much clearer I can make it. Dan?
Well, I'm going along the same lines as Cassie, and I agree with what Roger said.
The great.
I got everybody's attention now. The grade increase were all covered in budget meetings, correct?
The requests.
The upper column, but you're saying, Dave, not all of those were?
Going down to the committee.
Because I missed some of those meetings, I was out of it.
They're great requests.
Well, and now the promotion request. I'm concerned, I'm totally in agreement with Cassie again, that somewhere along the line there needs to be a dialogue, because it's putting a lot of responsibility on Brian to choose which ones there to put in or not put in. And somewhere along the line, if it's not put in, and I think they need a promotion, how do I, other than talking to Brian, which if I'm the only one that talks to Brian on it, he's not gonna put it in because there's only one supervisor. There needs to be a dialogue to where we bounce off one another and we all get on the same page. Otherwise, there'll be a lot of arguments and hard feelings when the budget is presented. So I totally agree with Cassie. All these need to be discussed. Any that have not been discussed need to be discussed. That's my feeling, and I mean, I'm just sharing my thoughts.
Can I talk again? I didn't have a problem with any of the promotions. They came, as far as I could tell, maybe there was a couple I didn't see, but most of them I thought came through the committee meetings and I didn't have a problem with them. But I felt that making Brian have to make the decision on the director's pay increases without us was a little unfair. But I also think because it's only a short number of people, if anybody does have an opinion, they can call Brian and take care of it that way. I was just wanted to see a dollar amount with some of this, and out of curiosity, but we got a pay grade schedule today, so I guess I can figure that out on my own. But I just felt that, you know, Brian ought to be deserving of some input from the rest of the board members on the salary increases that were the very last thing on the page. The other stuff I thought all went through committee, and I didn't have a problem with that.
Melissa?
So I don't totally agree with Dan.
This is start.
Melissa?
In past years, I know that usually there is a lot of dialogue that goes on between the personnel officer, the county administrator, and the budget officer as far as the promotions, what's warranted. You know, somebody just can't come up with a promotion that doesn't make sense. That's gotta be vetted through civil service. And, for some of the other grade increases, I know that's always weighed in between those three parties again, because those are not title changes, just increases. And then, of course, the board is always usually very involved to do some salary requests. I think there is usually a lot of dialogue that happens. I just don't know that it's always here. And, Supervisor Feather, we can certainly get, a summary of the cost, related to the sheet that was passed out today. So you don't have to do that yourself.
Okay, Brian, how do you want to handle it?
Well, we're gonna have finance in a few minutes, and there's gonna be a lot of discussions after we go into executive session with Dr. Larry and all that. If you remember back, I think it was a Govt meeting where I brought forward that the whole salary situation was gonna be a major concern, and at that point, I was told that wasn't up to me, which I agree, it was up to the full board. But we set parameters in union discussions, we've settled contracts, we've set parameters that non-unions are gonna have to, you know, be compensated for too. This whole thing is a far bigger global picture than what is being presented to you here. That's gonna be discussed later. So I think we'll have more dialogue in just a few minutes. So I guess I'm gonna let it go there, and then if somebody still has questions, we're either gonna have to do an open session, executive session, according to what's allowable, and other than that, you're just gonna have to call me. But I think the dialogue is gonna go in the direction to where it's gonna happen anyway. This is just first blush, and small blush at that.
Okay, so you're gonna handle that discussion today in finance, you're gonna handle it at a different meeting, or we need to schedule another personnel meeting sometime before you present your budget?
I bet everyone weighs in to handle this discussion today in finance, but yeah, I'll try to referee.
Okay, do you want us to set another, I guess, personnel meeting to discuss this between now and the end of the
Let's
budget?
see how we come out of finance today, and then I'll talk with you, and if we wanna set one more time.
Okay, and then we'll have to set some parameters with the administrator and the attorney to figure out how we can discuss positions / peoples,
Right.
and how we're gonna handle all that.
Well, anything that's talking about, like, most of the exempt, you know, like, raising the commissioner of this or the superintendent of that, is matters affecting an individual person. Changing a title of, you know, chief floor sweeper to chief superintendent floor sweeper is, there might only be one of them, but it's a title change, so, right.
Okay. Dan, does that give you some satisfaction we're heading in the right direction?
I like what Brian said, and I figure we'll see how it goes after in finance.
All right, Cassie, you okay with that?
Yes, sir. That'll work.
Anybody else? Sorry, Al.
No, that's okay. I think it's very helpful that Danielle sent out the grading step. I think it would be just as helpful to send out the exempt salary schedule as well to complete the loop.
Okay. And at some point, I would think it would take the three of you to put the numbers together to figure out what kind of impact we're talking about here, right? And how you want to break it down regarding the impact of grade increase request total is X, and promotional request is Y, and new positions is Z, and then what the grand total is, things like that.
If they ask for my help, I'll gladly give it.
Okay, are you okay
Guess
there?
we won't ask you.
No harm.
Yes, I do.
Anyone else? All right, I guess we're adjourned. Let's do some musical chairs.
Oh, someone's throwing things at you, man. I got it. How loud enough, how loud enough is that?
Fishing, come to 10 bucks. Oh, nice. That's what happens when you get 7.
Almost important, please, stay on the line.
All right, I call the, Govt office to order. Debbie says we may have technical difficulties, so we'll go from there. Cassie, can you hear me, and anyone on the, Zoom?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you very much. Still working, okay. First item of business is we need to discuss the, is Laura here?
She's on Zoom.
Laura Oswald?
She's on Zoom.
Okay. Laura Chadwick, I'm sorry, Laura Chadwick. Laura Chadwick, can you explain what you're bringing up for the, reassessment issues?
Yes, I can. First of all, I want to express my condolences to the town of White Creek and the loss of their assessor. Rhonda Merriworth had been an assessor in the town of White Creek since January of 1986. Her family, friends, and coworkers. I went to White Creek yesterday, worked with her on some of the things going on in the town. We known Rhonda and worked with Rhonda for many, many years. So that's going to be a great loss to the town of White Creek, and we're very sorry to hear that. We're able to assist them where we can. So what I wanted to talk about was the multi-town reval. When we first started this back in 2019, we received a grant to cover a portion of the services for the reval. We received a grant of $590,031. The cost at that point for the reval through GAR was $685,000. When that was presented, we had also put in for some shared services money through New York State Department of State. The money that was put in for that, we had anticipated would cover the balance that would have been due to the town between the difference of the cost of the reval and the grant, which at that point was close to $89,000. We in turn, I shouldn't say the county administrator's office, did the paperwork, completed the stuff for the shared services. And I just found out recently that the shared services grant was only going to only going to cover $27,500 of the outstanding cost for the towns. Originally, when the plan went into place, we had let the towns know that there could be some fees, but we were pretty sure the shared services would cover that. We thought it would cover the project as a whole, and now we've learned that it's only going to cover 1 year of the project. So unfortunately, it doesn't cover the whole thing. The outstanding balance of the shared services did not cover was about $67,469. I don't know. That's what I'm here to see if the board has any pleasure in covering that cost for these 6 towns that went through the reval. I have spoken to the town supervisors and the town assessors in all the towns, and brought this information forward that there may be some cost to the town